Hey, yo, what's going on? It's Adrian. I am back and I'm ready to talk about some of the offseason stuff. Today, I want to talk about NFL quarterbacks. I made a list of every team's quarterbacks, and I'm basically just going to predict the entire quarterback room for every team in the NFL. So that's like every starter that I think is going to be around for 2024, all the backups and practice squad players. It's going to be fun. I'm pretty excited, and I hope you are too. You can skip to your team if you want. That's cool, whatever. But I want to get right into it. So we're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles. They just happen to be the team that is up right now, I guess. I don't know. But the Eagles, obviously, they're switching their O coordinator. Brian Johnson was fired. They are bringing in Kellen Moore from the LA Chargers. Their quarterbacks, well, obviously Jalen Hurts is their starting quarterback. He's going to be there. He's under contract. He's really good. He's their guy. After him, Marcus Mariota is a free agent. He's their current backup quarterback. They don't seem to really like him all that much, though. So I think he is probably just going to go ahead and maneuver on out. They do have Tanner Mackey under contract. Tanner McKee, I still don't know how to say his name correctly. They still have him under contract as he was a rookie last year. So I think he's going to be competing for a backup role with the team. I also think they're going to bring somebody else in to compete with him, though. And with Kellen Moore, I was looking at quarterbacks that have ties to him as an O coordinator, and there's a couple. They could bring in Easton Stick from the Chargers. He was their backup this year, and he makes sense. But Will Greer, I think, makes more sense. He was the one of the backup quarterbacks when Kellen Moore was with the Cowboys, and he followed Kellen Moore to the Chargers. So he's been with him his entire career, I'm pretty sure. And I think it just made a lot of sense to me for the Eagles to bring in Will Greer to compete with Tanner McKee to be the backup quarterback in Philadelphia next year. So that's what I have happening. I got Mackey over him right now as winning the backup role, but it could be either way. But I think that made a lot of sense there for the Eagles. After that, we'll go to the Cowboys. Of course, Dak Prescott is their quarterback. The only thing with Dak Prescott is that he's probably going to want a new contract going into the offseason. I think they will get it done, though. I think that's going to happen. You're probably going to hear about him signing a new contract sometime in the offseason. Either way, he's their guy. I know he choked in the playoffs, and you know he's kind of like Tony Romo in that he just kind of struggled under pressure, I guess, sometimes. He did good, though, so maybe it's not all on him. Either way, he's their guy. And after that, Cooper Rush and Trey Lance are both under contract, and I think they're happy with their crew there, so I don't think anything's really going to change. They still see Trey Lance as a possible reclamation project, quarterback of the future type guy, and Cooper Rush has been their backup for quite some time, so I don't see any of that changing. After that, we got the New York Giants. So they're interesting. Daniel Jones is still under contract. They have Terod Taylor and, of course, the Italian stallion Tommy DeVito. I don't really know what to do with them. Terod Taylor, I think, kind of is going to be gone. He's a free agent, and when they benched him for Tommy DeVito, I think that kind of burnt the bridge there. So I think he's gone. Daniel Jones, I mean, you could think that they want to move on from him, but the thing is, with his new big contract, it's basically impossible to move on from him this year. So I think, barring GM Joe Shane doing something crazy, I think Daniel Jones is going to be there competing to be the starter again. Um, Tommy is a fan favorite, and he played decently, so I think he'll be back as one of the backup quarterbacks. And I do think they will bring in someone else, of course, to compete with him for that backup slash possible starting role because Daniel Jones is not locked in right now. So I think they could bring in a free agent. Not sure who that would be. Maybe Jacoby Brissett is an option. Blaine Gabbert. There's a bunch of people you could name that have ties there. Especially maybe Kyle Allen from the Bills. They have Bills ties. Um, Mike Kafka was with the Chiefs, so that is the Blaine Gabbert tie there. But I think they have a very good chance of drafting a quarterback. They're picking, I believe, sixth overall. I could be wrong, but I believe it's sixth overall. I think most of the big name quarterbacks are going to be gone by then, but they could pick one in the second round, high draft pick in the second round as well. That is kind of what I'm thinking here. And I do have them picking J.J. McCarthy in the draft, as you can see. That is questionable. He might not fall into the second round. The Giants could pick him sixth overall in the first round. You never know. McCarthy's stock is currently, it's February 11th, 2024, the day of the Super Bowl. I'm recording this before the Super Bowl. J.J. McCarthy, his stock is currently rising, but I don't have too much faith that he's going to be a first round pick. So I think he'll be there for the Giants at sixth overall or whenever they pick in the second round. So I think that's going to happen. I think he makes a lot of sense. And honestly, who knows? He could even beat Daniel Jones out day one. But the Giants do seem to be interested in him at the moment. There's been reports that they've been talking to him. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to draft J.J. McCarthy and that he could be the quarterback of the future, depending on what happens with Daniel Jones there. Moving to the Washington Commanders, this gets very interesting. The Commanders pick second overall. You think that they're definitely, I think it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be picking a quarterback, whether that's Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels is the bigger question. Now, Sam Howell's under contract. You can see I have him there as the backup quarterback because I do think quarterback they pick second overall will take the place over him. That's where it gets interesting, though. Who is that quarterback going to be? Now, that really depends on what happens first overall because someone could trade up. Caleb Williams could go to the Bears. Someone could trade up and pick Caleb Williams. Someone could pick Drake May over Caleb Williams if they like him. Someone could pick Jaden Daniels over them if they like him enough. Anything could happen. What I think happens right now, I will get into later, but I think the Commanders are actually going to end up landing Caleb Williams at this time. I think Caleb Williams is going to drop to the second overall pick, and the Commanders recently brought Cliff Kingsbury in as their new offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury worked with Caleb Williams in college. So this is like a match made in heaven. Look, he even fits the colors for the Commanders. So I think this makes a lot of sense if Caleb Williams drops to them. If not, I think it'll probably end up being Drake May, if not Caleb Williams. But I have Caleb Williams right now, and I think he'd be perfect for the Commanders and for Cliff Kingsbury. It makes so much sense. Third quarterback, I have them picking up David Blau from the Lions. I don't know. He has ties to Kingsbury's time when he was with the Cardinals. So I was like, makes sense. Why not bring him in? The Commanders also have Jake Fromm and Jacoby Brissett. They're both free agents, and with the change in everything, I think they're both going to be gone. So this is what I have. I think Commanders fans would be very happy if this is how it goes with Caleb Williams dropping to him. And yeah, so that's what I have there. Next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, the current quarterback, is a free agent. He lost his O coordinator. Will he be leaving the team? That's what we got to think about here. Now, the Buccaneers are replacing Dave Canales with Liam Cohen, the current University of Kentucky O coordinator. So the thing with him is that he actually worked with Baker Mayfield with the Los Angeles Rams before Baker came to the Buccaneers. So there is a working relationship between O coordinator and and starting quarterback still. So that being said, I think Baker Mayfield is going to re-sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be their quarterback of the future. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he likes Tampa Bay. I think he likes Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen likes Baker Mayfield. I think the fans like Baker Mayfield. And I think this is just going to happen. It's not going to be cheap, that's for sure. There are going to be other teams that are going to be looking at him and might possibly try to make a bigger offer than the Buccaneers could. But I ultimately think Baker will be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their backup quarterback, Kyle Trask, is still under contract on his rookie contract. I don't see any reason to replace him at this time. And their third quarterback, they don't currently have one under contract. John Wolford is their third guy right now. I don't have them bringing him back. I think who makes perfect sense other than Liam Cohen's current quarterback in Kentucky at the university, and that is Devin Leary. He was the starting quarterback for Liam Cohen's offense at the University of Kentucky. Why not draft him? He'll be a late round draft pick, nothing crazy. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to draft him, and he'll get to work with the same offense. So makes a lot of sense. I think that's what's going to happen in Tampa. Let's move to Carolina. Carolina blew up the team, and they hired Dave Canales to be the new head coach. and he brought in his own guy as coordinator. Obviously, Bryce Young is their starting quarterback still. Dave Canales is going to try to kind of fix whatever the heck happened to him last year because he did not look good in that offense. And Dave Canales is seen as like an offensive guru type. So Bryce Young should be better in that system. We'll see. After him, Andy Dalton is still under contract. I don't see any reason for them to replace him. He's a great backup quarterback and a great voice in the locker room for Bryce Young to learn from. And this is where I also have John Walford, Tampa Bay's third quarterback, landing because why not have Dave Canales bring somebody from the Buccaneers along with him as a third string quarterback? He makes a lot of sense to just bring him with him for the Panthers. So that's what I got going on there. I think they had Jake Luton as their third string quarterback. He's gone. Next, we got the New Orleans Saints. Of course, they have Derek Carr still under contract. He was a bit disappointing last year, but he came on a bit strong late, and he's still seen as a starting quarterback caliber guy. So, despite the Saints changing their offensive coordinator, I don't imagine Derek Carr will be anywhere else. And his contract says that he's not going to be anywhere else. So, Derek Carr is the starting quarterback. Now, their O coordinator, they're replacing Pete Carmichael, who is a longtime Saints coordinator. I think he was there for 10 years. They're replacing him with the 49ers' current passing game coordinator, Clint Kubiak. Now, Kubiak has been in the league for a while now, and he's obviously seen as very good. He's coaching in the Super Bowl right today as I'm talking. So, he's going to be a very interesting guy. I think he should update the offense there to be better, and I think Derek Carr hopefully is going to be better in his system. However, he also didn't call the plays in San Francisco. That was Kyle Shanahan, so we'll see what he can do. But after Derek Carr, they still have Taysom Hill. I want to talk about first, the third quarterback there. You see, he's a very interesting case. Right now, he's kind of a quarterback, kind of a tight end. He's the jack of all trades. If you don't know who he is, then I guess whatever. But the thing with him is that he has a massive contract right now. He's getting paid like 10 million per season, and with his coordinator Pete Carmichael leaving, there is a case to be made that Pete Carmichael and Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos now might want to try to trade for him, or the Saints might try to cut him altogether. But the way his contract is right now, that's going to be kind of difficult to happen. So as of right now, I think Taysom Hill is going to be sticking with the Saints. Clint Kubiak will find a way to get him to do stuff because he's a very talented player. So I think Kubiak will enjoy having him on the team regardless. They might have to restructure his contract again, but I think he stays for now. He could go to the Broncos, though. Their backup quarterback for the moment is, what is it, Jake Hayner, I believe his name is. He was a rookie last year. He was suspended for half the season. He didn't really get too much of the offense. Plus, the offense is changing for Kubiak, so I think they're definitely going to want to bring in somebody to compete for the second string role. And I was looking at quarterbacks that Clint Kubiak has right now, so you could see somebody like Brandon Allen come into New Orleans to compete there. I have him going somewhere else. Um, I have Sam Darnold coming over to New Orleans to be the backup quarterback slash possibly. I mean, they're not like guaranteed to stick with Derek Carr. So if Derek Carr struggles, maybe Sam Darnold sees an opportunity where he could be the starting quarterback there. So I think that could entice him over to the Saints. I also think Sam Darnold could re-sign with the 49ers and still keep learning from Kyle Shanahan. But he's a guaranteed backup there. Maybe with New Orleans, he has a shot at possibly starting. So that's kind of why I pulled the trigger on this one. Plus, it's Clint Kubiak's system, so he knows the coach there. I wasn't super comfortable with that, but I think it could happen, and I think it made sense, so that's what I did. If Sam Darnold wins a ring with the 49ers today, as I'm speaking, if he wins a ring, then I think that makes a lot of sense for him to leave. If the 49ers don't beat the Chiefs, though, then maybe Sam Darnold wants to run it back as the backup and try to get a ring as a backup again. Or maybe if Purdy goes down, Darnold could see himself in the Super Bowl with the Niners. So I think there's a good chance Sam Darnold resigns, but in this prediction, I have him going to New Orleans. Next, we're going to move to Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta fired their coach. They got a whole new change. Raheem Morris is in there, and he's bringing Zach Robinson along as his offensive coordinator. I think they're cleaning house. Taylor Heineke, the backup, he's a free agent. I think he's gone. And they have Logan Woodside as the third quarterback. I think he's gone as well. He's an Arthur Smith guy. So that leaves Desmond Ritter. I think there's a good chance that Desmond Ritter gets either traded or cut, but he's under contract. He's under a rookie contract, so it's cheap. And I could see Zach Robinson looking at him as like a reclamation type project guy. So I have him staying in Atlanta. Why not keep him around? He could compete for the backup role. For the starter though, the Falcons have been tied to a few guys here. I think they're definitely going to want to try to get a proven starter in here. They could go for the draft, but they're picking kind of later. I think most of the big name guys, unless they trade up, are going to be gone. So I do have them looking towards trade or free agency. They've been tied to Justin Fields, so that is a possibility I considered. But instead, I have them picking up someone else, and that is current Denver Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson. I think the Broncos are going to cut ties with Russell Wilson, albeit that is going to be an expensive split there. So, I mean, maybe that doesn't happen, but I think it's going to happen. And the Falcons made a lot of sense to me as a team that would bring Russell Wilson in, and they would immediately become a playoff contender within that division because it's not a very strong division right now. So I think that they'd be comfortable making that move, and that doesn't necessarily mean he would be their starting franchise quarterback, though. I could see them getting, because Russell Wilson's been a bit disappointing over the past couple of years. I could see them getting him for a somewhat cheaper deal. Not cheap, but like maybe a Kirk Cousins type contract where it's not breaking the bank and they're able to still splurge on some other position. But I think he'd be a great quarterback for what they have right now. Definitely better than Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke. So I think he makes a lot of sense as an Atlanta Falcon. I do also have them picking a quarterback in the draft, and that is Spencer Rattler's picture right there. I think even if they do pick up a guy like Russell Wilson, I think they'll still want to pick up a possible quarterback of the future, and Spencer Rattler is like the perfect guy that fits that mold. He could be like a third round pick, nothing too high, that could be their quarterback of the future, or also could just develop into a good backup. You never know. He's a very kind of scattershot type guy. He has all the essentials that you would want in a quarterback, but he's just made such poor play that he's not considered a first overall talent. So that's why he would be dropping to the third round there. And I think Zach Robinson would kind of like salivate at seeing Spencer Rattler on the team because he's very talented, and honestly, he could end up starting over Russ if Russ struggles at some point in the season. So that's why I have the Falcons. I kind of like what I set up for them. And fans, maybe you're not like super happy with Russ as your starting quarterback, but I mean, come on, that's got to be leagues better than what you had the last couple of years with a struggling Matt Ryan, and then what you've seen the past years with Mariota and Ritter, right? So I got Russ. We'll see. Next, we're moving to Minnesota. Minnesota, they have Kirk Cousins currently. He is a free agent, and he is, depending on what you think of Baker Mayfield, I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the top free agent quarterback on the market. Now, that does mean that someone other than the Vikings is probably going to offer him a large sum of money. The thing with Kirk Cousins, though, I think the Vikings are going to want him back, and I think Kirk Cousins wants to go back. Kirk Cousins is a guy that has his entire family. He's a big family oriented man, and his entire family has been living in Minnesota for quite a few years now. They have kids in school there, and I don't think he wants to up and leave when he has the opportunity to stay. So I think he is going to re sign with Minnesota. Um, not for a huge contract. I honestly think the Vikings could get a bit of a discount rate to keep Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, but it's also not going to be cheap. It's going to be. I think he'll probably sign like a 3 year deal, similar to what he signed last time, maybe a little more, because he is a very talented quarterback. But I think he's going to be the starting quarterback there. And after him, they have currently Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jalen. What is his name? He's right there. I'm looking at Jaron Hall from BYU. Jaron Hall is still under contract, rookie contract. He'll be back. Josh Dobbs is a free agent. I assume he is going to be gone. And then Nick Mullins, they tried to move away from him a few times during the season after Kirk Cousins got hurt. So I assume they're not going to, they're going to want to replace him. So I think Nick Mullins is going to get cut. And I think they're a team that is going to want to bring in established backup quarterback to compete with Jaron Hall for the backup position. And I was looking around the league, and I didn't really make any connections with this guy, but I think Jameis Winston makes a lot of sense as a good backup quarterback, possibly even starter if Kirk goes down again. That could come in and instantly make everyone happy that he's there in the league or in Minnesota rather. He's also a very very fun and good guy to have in the locker room based on all the videos and articles that I've read about him. One other thing to note about Jameis Winston joining this team is he's a very religious guy. Kirk Cousins is probably the most religious quarterback in the league. He talks about it relatively often in his how he's close to God. And Jameis Winston, there was a recent video of him literally preaching in church. So he is obviously a very religious man as well. And then Jaron Hall went to Brigham Young, which is a very religious university, albeit slightly different, but still, I think this is a cool kind of setup with Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, and Jaron Hall. It's like the most religious quarterback crew in the league, and I mean maybe God's going to be on Minnesota's side if if they bring in Jameis Winston. Who knows? But I like him as the backup there. So next we're going to move to Detroit. Obviously, Detroit has Jared Goff. He is their starting quarterback. He has the entire fandom on his side, not to mention the team and the coaches. So I think they're I'm not sure what his contract is right now. He's still under contract, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them extend him at this point to just to give him a little like boost and like, hey, you're under contract. You're our guy. You're in Detroit for the foreseeable future. Their backup quarterback from last year, Teddy Bridgewater, retired. Unfortunately, I love Teddy Two Gloves. He retired to become a high school head coach, so he's gone. And their other guys have Nate Sudfeld and David Blau. They don't inspire confidence, and they kind of tried to move off of them in the past few years anyway. So I think they're gonna kind of get rid of those guys. They do have Hendon Hooker under contract. He was injured all of last year. Very impressive college career though. He will definitely be competing to be the backup quarterback, but he is unproven. So I think they're gonna bring someone in to compete with him. And looking around the league, I didn't really make a connection with this guy either, but Mason Rudolph played well for the Steelers down the stretch, even playing in a playoff game relatively well. So I think he makes a lot of sense as a backup quarterback type, and I think he kind of fits the Dan Campbell mold for like a he kind of gets like heated. You saw him get in a fight with Myles Garrett back in the day, a few years back, and he seems like a tough kind of guy that fits the Dan Campbell mold, and I think he'll fit and be happy to compete with Hendon Hooker for that backup role. Excuse me, I do think Hendon Hooker would win that, but you never know. So I'm happy with how that quarterback room shaped up. Next, we got the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love is their guy now. He proved it, bringing them to the playoffs, and the only thing left for them to do is to sign him to a big money deal in this offseason, which I think is definitely going to happen. I don't think he's gonna break any records with whatever deal he signs, but it's definitely gonna be a big one. So Packers fans get ready to see that happen. After him, they have Sean Clifford and Alex Mago. They have both of those guys under contract still, and they rolled with them all last year. I'm sure they'll bring in some sort of competition for like the preseason, but they like both of these guys, so I don't see any reason to replace either of them at this point. So they just bring it back with their guys. Next, we got the Chicago Bears. This Bears fans, you've probably been waiting to see this one. So the Bears are one of the biggest question marks in the league right now with what is going to happen at quarterback position. Justin Fields is under contract. He's nearing the end of his rookie deal. He's somewhat proved himself this past year, but not enough to where he's guaranteed as the starting quarterback. Obviously, the Bears have the number one overall pick. So they have the pick of the litter right now. They could pick Caleb Williams. They could pick Drake May. They could pick Jaden Daniels. They could do what they want. They could trade out of it. The Bears have recently came out and said that if they trade the first overall pick, they expect to have a historic haul. So what that says to me is that the Bears are comfortable with Justin Fields going into the season next season as their starting quarterback, but they said that they want a historic haul. So I don't think they expect to trade the first overall pick because they could get a historic haul. I mean, it's happened before, of course. It happens all the time. But I think this basically says that they're kind of comfortable either way, like drafting first overall or keeping Justin Fields. And I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is to trade Justin Fields and then restart with a rookie quarterback on the rookie deal so that you're not paying a questionable quarterback like the Giants are with Daniel Jones right now, or like the Rams once did with Jared Goff, or like the Eagles once did with Carson Wentz. It usually just ends up bad when you do that. So I think it makes the most sense for the Bears to draft a quarterback with the first overall pick, and I think that's what they're going to do. The only question mark is who they're going to draft with that pick. Right now, most signs seem to be pointing to Caleb Williams as the first overall choice, but in my humble opinion, I think that Drake May is going to surpass Caleb Williams during the draft process for a lot of teams, and I think the Bears are going to be one of those teams. So I have them drafting Drake May first overall. The Bears, one thing to think about them, they did get rid of Luke Getsy, and they're bringing in Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator from the Seahawks, as their new offensive coordinator. Shane Waldron coached Geno Smith and Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. Both of those guys were heavily system involved quarterbacks with the Seahawks. Yes, Russell Wilson did from time to time run around and chuck the ball, but for the most part, these guys are both system quarterbacks, and Shane Waldron is, he likes a system. The big difference between Drake May and Caleb Williams is that Caleb Williams likes to break the system, run out of the pocket, and make plays with his feet or his arm. He just makes stuff up basically. Drake May, on the other hand, is a huge system guy. He plays within the system and he rarely breaks out of it to do other things. So I think that makes perfect sense for a Shane Waldron run offense, and I think that they're going to value Drake May higher than Caleb Williams. So I have them picking Drake May as the first overall pick. Plus, that's not even saying how Caleb Williams allegedly said that he doesn't want to play for Chicago. I think that might play a role in it as well. But yeah, so I got them drafting Drake May first overall. I think he's a very talented, good pick. And then I have them trading Justin Fields. We'll see who they trade him to eventually when I get to the team. But after that, backup quarterback, I have Shane Waldron bringing Drew Lock in with him from Seattle. I think he's a perfect backup for Drake May. And then they still have Tyson Bagent, who I don't see them getting rid of. He looked pretty solid when he was in there. Then they had Nathan Peterman. He's gone. Oh well, boohoo. Next, we got the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Brock Purdy, he took them to the Super Bowl. He is their guy. I think the only thing with Brock Purdy is, will he sign a new contract in the offseason? That'll be interesting. He is the lowest paid starting quarterback in the league, I believe. I didn't look that up, but he's very low paid right now. So I think there is a decent chance that they just say, okay, screw it. We're going to give you a new contract because this is crazy. Depends. We'll see. Maybe they don't. Maybe he just plays on that contract and they bring in a bunch of highly paid free agents to run it back to another Super Bowl. I hope they win the Super Bowl, by the way. Anyway, that being said, their backup quarterbacks right now are Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. They are both free agents. And as you can see in this picture, I have them both leaving in free agency to their own respective teams that they go to. Now, the 49ers being a perennial playoff and Super Bowl team, you could see Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen both coming back for Kyle Shanahan and to try to win more rings or something as backups. But I have them moving on to try to do their own roles in other places. The 49ers, I think this makes a lot of sense. So bear with me here, but the Patriots have Mac Jones on the trading block. He has failed as their starting quarterback, and they are trying to get rid of him. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan was allegedly infatuated with Mac Jones a few years ago when he was eligible to be drafted. But the 49ers instead went ahead and drafted Trey Lance, who failed with the 49ers. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to Kyle Shanahan to go back and get the guy that he originally wanted in Mac Jones. Granted, Brock Purdy obviously is the starter. There's not going to be any competition there. But Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan could see as like a reclamation type project where he could coach him up, and then if Purdy goes down, or if maybe just see Mac Jones in the preseason or something, Kyle Shanahan could be like, "Look, see, this is who I wanted. This is who we could have had. Mac Jones would have been fantastic here." Shove it in everybody's faces. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it won't be a high draft pick trade. It'll probably be like a fifth, sixth rounder, or maybe even a pick swap, because Mac Jones has like zero trade value right now. So don't be scared that they're going to trade like a second round pick or anything for the guy. Um, After Mac Jones, like I said, I could see them keeping Sam Darnold or Brandon Allen easily. I could see them keeping either of them, but I have them both leaving, so I was just kind of looking around at cheap free agents they could bring in. By no means is this a guy that I have any ties to the 49ers, but PJ Walker, I still can't believe the throw that he put on with the Panthers a couple years back. So I think teams still look at him as a guy that's very talented, and I could see the Niners bringing him in as like their third string quarterback slash compete with Mac Jones for the backup role. So PJ Walker on the 49ers. After the 49ers, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, they still have Geno Smith under contract. I don't see any reason for him to not be the starting quarterback next year. The Seahawks did, though, they completely replaced their whole coaching staff. Um, they hired Mike McDonald as the head coach, and Mike McDonald brought in former Washington offensive coordinator Ryan Grubbs as his new offensive coordinator, who incidentally was going to be Alabama's offensive coordinator before the Seahawks came calling, which I absolutely love that they took him away from Alabama. But anyway, Ryan Grubbs being the Seahawks' new coordinator got me thinking, because I'm trying to make connections here. Listen, Geno Smith is not the guaranteed franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. He's kind of just a good quarterback that like can win games for them, but they don't really, I don't think at least that they see him as a guy that's like going to bring them to Super Bowl glory. So I think there's a good chance that the Seahawks are going to be, looking at all the quarterbacks in this draft. Ryan Grubbs literally just won, or not won, they literally just had like an amazing season with Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., who is in the draft. He was Ryan Grubbs' quarterback all through college. So it makes too much sense if he falls to them for the Seahawks to draft Michael Penix Jr. Now, that being said, Seahawks fan, stay with me here. I don't think they have to draft him in the first round. I think the Seahawks can draft a solid um, first round talent with their pick that can play for them elsewhere. Excuse me. And I think Michael Penix at this point in time, it's still early in the process, but I think Michael Penix has a good chance of falling out of the first round. I think it's going to happen. The Seahawks now, obviously, they don't have a second round pick at the moment, but they have two third round picks. So I think the Seahawks are going to trade up. Okay, there's balloons. That's weird. I think the Seahawks are going to trade up in the second round and pick Michael Penix Jr. as their quarterback of the future to sit behind Geno Smith and learn a little bit for the year. Or maybe he even could beat out Geno Smith. I don't see that happening, but it could. Now, the Seahawks had Drew Lock. He was a free agent. I have him going elsewhere. After him, it's kind of a question mark. So they could bring in anybody. I kind of just threw out Josh Johnson. I was looking at, Mike McDonald has ties to the Ravens, of course. So I was looking at Ravens free agents. He's a defensive guy, so maybe it doesn't make too much sense. But Ravens Josh Johnson is a free agent quarterback, and I think he could make sense to fill a backup role for the Seahawks. So I have them bringing him in as well to compete there. So that's what I have with the Seahawks. I really think Michael Penix is going to be a Seahawk at this point in time. Next, we got the LA Rams. Matt Stafford, of course, is the starting quarterback. It was a question mark coming into last season, but he proved that he's still a very good, capable starting quarterback, despite the injuries that he had a few years ago. So, yeah, Matt Stafford is the guy. He is getting old, though, so Will they draft a quarterback? That remains to be seen. After Matt Stafford, they had Carson Wentz as the backup quarterback. Carson Wentz is a free agent. He could go elsewhere. The Rams did lose Zach Robinson, who went to the Falcons, so maybe the Falcons could bring Carson Wentz into Atlanta. Um, but the Rams have kind of had like a rotation at quarterback, at the backup quarterback position for the past few years. And it seems to me like Sean McVay just wants that rotation to be gone. He wants to get a quarterback in there and stick with him. So I think that Carson Wentz is going to get re-signed to be the backup quarterback there. I think Carson Wentz just fits a backup quarterback role. I think he's happier there. He seems to get way too stressed out as a starter. I think he's a fantastic backup quarterback, and they're going to re-sign him, in my opinion. After him, it's a bit of a question mark. Right now, they do have uh, what's his name, the former Georgia quarterback. Let me look it up real quick here. Stetson Bennett. Yeah, right now they do have Stetson Bennett and Dresser Wynn under contract. But the thing is, Dresser Wynn, for one, is he's never played it down and he's not really seen as an NFL quarterback, in my opinion. So I think there's a good shot they don't view him as that and they move on from him. Stetson Bennett, they did want to be their backup quarterback. That's what they planned. But Stetson Bennett, unfortunately, for personal reasons, he missed the entirety of last year. Now, we could speculate all day about those personal reasons for him to leave, but as of this moment, it is not known if he will ever be back with the LA Rams. Much like whatever happened to Matt Corral a few years last year or the year before. Personal reasons with him too. Not sure what's going on with these young quarterbacks, but Stetson Bennett also isn't a young rookie quarterback, so that was like a question mark to begin with. Now with this whole thing, I kind of have a feeling they might not like move on officially, but I think they're going to move on with a new young quarterback to take his place. Now, that could definitely be in the draft. I think there's a high probability they're going to draft somebody in like the fifth, sixth round or something like that again. But since they just used the draft pick on Stetson Bennett, and that was a question mark, I have Sean McVay going ahead, seeing the Jets are trying to trade Zach Wilson, who failed with the Jets as their starting quarterback. He has zero trade value, much like Mac Jones, probably even less than Mac Jones right now. So I could easily see them like trading a 6 round pick or doing like a pick swap in the 4th round or whatever to acquire Zach Wilson to come in, learn under Sean McVay and Mike LaFleur, their O coordinator, and learn under Carson Wentz, who went through a lot of troubles that Zach Wilson is in a similar boat as, and learning under Matt Stafford as well. And he was just learning under Aaron Rodgers. Of course, that didn't help all that much because Rodgers was like hurt for most of the year. But I think it makes a lot of sense for them to trade for Zach Wilson, have him come in, learn for a year, probably replace Carson Wentz the next year as like the backup, the main backup, and then maybe even eventually become a replacement for Matt Stafford if all goes well for Zach Wilson and the Rams. It made a lot of sense to me. By any means, he could be traded anywhere else, but this made a lot of sense to me. So that's what I have for the LA Rams. Next, we're going to move to Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray, of course. He came in for the second half of the season last year and just proved immediately that he was way better than anything that the Cardinals had with Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune, even Colt McCoy in the preseason. And he is their quarterback of the future. Jonathan Gannon likes him, and he's their guy. So he's their starter, no question. After him, they do have Clayton Tune, the rookie from last year, under contract. He's very unproven, though, and he didn't look very good in the one start that he got. So they're definitely going to want to bring in some competition for him. I was trying to find some guys with connections to the coaching staff in Arizona. They have the former Browns quarterback coach, so I mean, maybe Jacoby Brissett could be a viable option as the backup quarterback here. That could happen. I have him going somewhere else, though. So, Arizona, I didn't really find someone that had a good connection there. So, I just went with a backup quarterback that I thought did pretty decent last year when he had the opportunity, and that is Easton Stick from the LA Chargers. Easton Stick started some games after Justin Herbert went down, and I thought he looked pretty solid. He wasn't really winning them games, but as a backup quarterback, I thought he did pretty well. So I think the Cardinals could see that and be like, okay, we can bring him in, have him compete with Clayton Tune for this backup quarterback spot. Why not? He'll be pretty cheap anyway. So I don't know. It could be anybody else, but that's what I have.